78 on 78. News Radio 78, WBBM, Chicago.
The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Things that are done, it is needless to speak about. Things that are past, it is needless to blame. So spoke the great Chinese philosopher Confucius. Confucius, believed by many to be the wisest man that ever lived. Since our story is about wisdom, we had to put Confucius in there someplace. Wisdom, a quality so often associated with the mind, can also spring from the heart as well.
I tell you, her death wasn't an accident.
Well, how can you say that? Were you there?
No.
Well, did you see anything suspicious? Did you ever even know these people?
No, but
Then what gives you the right to make such an accusation?
Because that's what really happened. I'm never wrong.
Oh, really? Now,
I'm never wrong about anything. Especially murder.
Our mystery drama, Sound Advice, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Victoria Dan and stars Carol Teitel. It is sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One.
Basically, you're kind of a procrastinator, aren't you?
Can I get back to you later on that?
But you don't just put things off. No, sir, you put things off for a reason.
Say, when are these snow shovels going on sale?
August.
I'll wait.
But what about the 2 feet of snow in our driveway, Wally?
It'll melt.
Well, for you purposeful procrastinators, Buick has some very good news. At this time of year, your Buick dealer may get very accommodating when it comes to deals. On compact, fun-to-drive Skylarks, roomy, comfortable Centuries, luxurious Regals, even full-size LeSabres and elegant Electras. Now, while we hate to hurry you, this is what a lot of other procrastinators have been waiting for, too. So stop dawdling, because you can afford a Buick. Yes, you can. Right now at your Buick dealers.
Am I too late?
No, sir. I'd say you're just in time.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Northwest Federal Summertime, summertime. It's Northwest Federal Summertime, summer savings time.
Sun, fun, and song. People have lots of ways to spend summertime, and Northwest Federal gives you lots of ways to save. Choose one of 23 gifts free or for special low prices when you deposit $250 or more at any Northwest Federal Savings Center. There's an Igloo ice chest, a Weber grill, a Norelco Gotcha hair dryer, a Sunbeam hand mixer, and other gifts to help make summer savings a little easier. So when summer's over, you'll have more than a suntan to show. So sing.
It's Northwest Federal Summertime, 63 hours a week, summer time.
Nothing is given so profusely as advice, so the philosopher said. In a world constantly tormented by food, energy, and water shortages, isn't it reassuring to know that there is at least one commodity, advice, which will never be in short supply? Yet, despite the profusion of free wisdom, too many people feel the only advice worth taking is the kind you have to pay for. Perhaps that isn't so odd when you consider that we usually end up paying for even the free advice, often in ways we least expect.
Did you say something, Freddie?
You haven't heard a word I've said.
Said about what?
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Oh, look at the absolute mess you've made of the paper.
I should know better than to disturb you when you're reading Dear Doreen.
What did you say?
I bet there isn't a breakfast table in America where a man can have a decent conversation with his wife. You're all too busy reading that gossip column.
It's not a gossip column. It's an advice column.
It's the same thing. Some female poking her head into other people's business. What earth-shattering advice is the old bat giving today? Mavis?
You really want to hear?
Sure. Why not?
The letter goes like this. Dear Doreen, I'm an attractive, fashionable housewife with immaculate habits. I can no longer stand living with my gauche, sloppy, inconsiderate husband. I want to tell him I am leaving him, but am afraid of his violent temper. What shall I do? Signed, Desperate in the Country.
Desperate in the country. I bet there's no such person.
Would you like to hear Dear Doreen's reply?
Not really.
Dear Desperate, you and your husband are obviously mismatched. Forget his sloppiness. Forget his temper. And most of all, forget him. Sincerely, Doreen.
Forget him? This dear Doreen is telling some lady to leave her husband?
Yes.
Some lady she doesn't even know? She's a phony. I bet she makes up all those letters.
That's not true.
I bet she even wrote that last letter, Desperate in the Country. Who ever heard of a name like that?
It was the only name I could think of.
What?
I wrote that letter to Dear Doreen.
You're kidding, right?
I'm desperate in the country.
What are you saying?
I'm leaving you, Freddie.
You what?
Leaving you.
Oh, I don't believe it.
I mean it this time.
Well, why?
I can't stand it anymore.
Well, aren't I a good husband, Mavis? Don't I buy you all those fancy clothes you want?
Please, Freddie.
Don't I let you watch what you want on television when there isn't a game on?
I don't love you anymore.
You don't? Now, listen. You're not leaving me just because some fishwife in a newspaper tells you to.
Now, can't we be civilized about this?
Civilized? You expect me to be civilized? This isn't the movies.
There you go, shouting. Always shouting.
I'm not shouting. Let me make this quite clear, Mavis. You're my wife. You're not leaving me.
I've made up my mind.
You'll never leave me.
I will. I am.
I won't let you.
I will leave you if it kills me.
Even if it kills you.
I don't want to discuss it anymore.
Just a minute. Where are you going?
I have a headache.
Sit down, Mavis.
No.
You just don't tell your husband you're leaving and then just walk off. Come back here. We're not finished.
Let go of my arm.
Not until you understand this, Mavis. You're not leaving me.
My wrist.
You'll never leave me.
Please, Freddie, you're hurting me.
You're my wife, and a wife has to be loyal to her husband.
Let me go or I'll kick you. I swear.
Oh, why, you...
No, Freddie. Freddie, I only did it so you'd let go of me. No, but please, don't hit me. Don't hit me.
Mavis? Come on, Mavis. I didn't hit you that hard. Come on, get up. Oh, all right, I apologize. I shouldn't have gotten so mad. I shouldn't have hit you. Did you hear me, Mavis? I said I was sorry. Mavis? Honey? Please, answer me. You can't... It was an accident. You must have hit your head when you fell. I don't mean to... It was an accident. No one will believe it. I gotta think. I gotta think.
Okay, keep it moving. Keep it moving. Can't you see we got an accident here?
Hey, did a car really skid off the bridge, Sheriff?
Come on there, no rubbernecking. Keep it moving.
Oh, did a lady really
I
drown?
told everybody to keep back. Now let that ambulance through. And make way for that stretcher. Oh, Joe, will you take over? Keep those people back. Keep that traffic moving. I got to talk with my husband. Tell me again what happened, Freddie.
Sheriff,
Now, I know this is upsetting for you, but I have to ask. Now, how did it happen?
we were driving into town, Mavis and me. The car skidded out of control down the embankment into the river.
Could Mavis swim?
Well, of course she could, Sheriff. You don't think I'd let Mavis drown, do you?
No, I don't, Freddie, but I got to follow proper procedure. You know that.
I thought she was out of the car. I thought she was right behind me. I didn't think she was still caught inside the car.
I'm very sorry, Freddie.
I thought she was right behind me.
Hey, let me drive you home.
I wouldn't let Mavis drown. I loved her.
I know.
You don't think I'd let Mavis drown, do you? You believe me, don't you, Sheriff?
Yes, I believe you, Freddie. I believe you.
Dear Puzzled, your mother-in-law does not know everything. Come in.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm Jenkins Smith, new managing editor.
Oh.
I'm visiting the various departments, introducing myself to the staff. This is the dear Doreen office?
Yes, that's right, Mr. Smith.
And you are...
Doreen Compton.
Doreen? You mean there really is a dear Doreen?
Who else do you think writes the column, Mr. Smith?
I thought, I was sure it was just a name someone made up. You do it all alone?
Is that so astonishing?
Well, even when I tried to picture dear Doreen as an actual person, I was sure she'd be older. Many people think of Doreen as...
A doddering old maid.
Your column has always fascinated me.
I get the impression that isn't a compliment. Is there a point, Mr. Smith, that you are inadequately attempting to come to?
You certainly live up to your reputation.
Well, I wasn't sure I had one.
A way with words. When dear Doreen speaks, the whole world listens. And it is the whole world. You're syndicated. So doesn't it ever bother you?
What?
The power you hold?
I don't believe in false modesty. I'm good and I know it.
Well, I'll level with you, Doreen. I'm a newsman. I believe in reporting the news, period. No frills, no fashion centerfolds, no recipes, no advice to the lovelorn, no comics, just the news. But just the news doesn't sell newspapers.
Say the word, Mr. Smith, and I'll gladly leave.
Now, Doreen, no, I didn't
There
say...
isn't another paper in this country that wouldn't pay me 5 times what I earn here.
Yes. All I meant was what you write might not be what I think of as news. Still, as a journalist, you have a responsibility.
Mr. Smith.
Call me Jenkins.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I am aware of my responsibility.
But don't you ever wonder with all this advice you give out?
Wonder about what?
If it's the right advice.
But would I give it out if it weren't the right advice?
Well, you're dealing with strangers. What's right for one person might be wrong for somebody else.
Are you suggesting that some of my advice is wrong?
Well, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes.
I don't.
With an attitude like that, you'd probably fall apart if you ever discovered you were wrong.
But I am never wrong.
That's exactly what I mean.
An attitude like that. No frills journalism, my foot. Doreen! Melissa, what took you so long? I'm famished. There was a new cashier, and he took forever. Doreen, did you see him? See who? Never mind, I can tell by the look on your face.
What on earth are you talking about?
You look really steamed.
I am steamed.
Obviously, you've just had the pleasure of meeting the illustrious Mr. Jenkins Smith. Believe me, it was no pleasure. He hates women, Doreen.
But that's not quite the impression I got.
Well, not like that. I mean, he hates women on the paper. It's a fact. He thinks we're irresponsible.
Melissa, how long have you been my secretary?
Oh.
10, 11 years? Well, it bothers me that you are so vulnerable.
Oh.
I admit it did irritate me for a moment, suggesting I would ever dash off advice, serious advice, in a cavalier fashion.
He said that. Well, now, doesn't it prove my point?
Melissa, I would be lying if I denied that for just a second or two he challenged me to admit that I might have been wrong in any of my answers.
He did.
But that just isn't so. I have never given any advice that I did not have complete faith in. Smith was obviously asserting his new power as managing editor by preening his ego.
I never thought about that.
But how about lunch?
Sure. Oh, I meant to tell you. On tonight's late edition, they cut off the last letter to make space for the obit.
Oh, let me see.
There, on page 47. An obituary for some ex-fashion model.
Oh, Mavis Montrose died, but she used to model for fashion designs.
I think she drowned or something.
Mavis Montrose was married to a dairy farmer named Frederick Gumbler.
You look startled.
Mavis Montrose was Mavis Gumbler.
What is it, Doreen?
But why should that name sound familiar?
Hold on a minute. Did you say Gumbler?
Mavis Gumbler. Now, why does that name ring a bell?
I have it. Desperate in the country.
What did you say?
Mavis Gumbler was desperate in the country. Remember, she wrote you a letter.
That's right. She wanted to leave her husband. He had a violent temper.
Their car skidded off the road, it says.
Melissa, get Mrs. Gumbler's original letter out of the file.
Sure, but what's it about?
Well, it's got to be a coincidence that she died so soon after I printed her letter in the column.
Coincidence?
I have a strange feeling about this. I can't quite explain it. She wanted to leave her husband. I told her to go ahead and leave him.
Well, from what she said about him, it was good advice.
Well, I thought so, too, or else I wouldn't have given it.
Certainly.
And, after all, good advice never killed anybody. Or, did it?
What exactly is good advice? If we examine history, we can see it's always been the fashion to blame an individual for the hardships of many. The advisor, the oracle, the strategist, the sage, all have always been held responsible for devastating military defeats and countless economic disasters. Who really is to say that the burden for unfortunate advice lays with the one who gives it and not the one who follows it? I'll be back with Act 2 shortly.
This is Terry Carter. High blood pressure has been called the silent killer because in the early stages there are no symptoms. The only way to tell if you have it is to have your blood pressure checked. Unchecked, high blood pressure can lead to stroke, heart failure, and kidney failure. The relationship between high blood pressure and kidney disease is complex and not fully understood. To find the answers takes research. You can help solve this medical mystery by contributing to your Kidney Foundation. Give now. Give the gift of life.
You know the kind of day when it's so hot, the sheep are all lining up for crew cut? Well, that's the time for country time.
Country time, country time. Tastes like that good old-fashioned lemonade.
Country time lemonade flavored drink. Not too tart, not too sweet, with natural lemon flavor. When you got a thirst for the taste of good old-fashioned lemonade.
Country time, country time. Tastes like that good old-fashioned lemonade.
Heroic acts often go unnoticed. There's no real glory, no medal pinned on your chest, beyond knowing that maybe you helped save a little piece of the world. Peace is so difficult to hold on to, and yet, what is peace? Just time between wars? No, it's more. It's the time to plant the seeds, to plow the fields, to reach out and touch a child, to battle hunger and give hope. That's the Peace Corps. Every day, thousands of people just like you bring nourishment to the hungry and water to the parched. And what do they get, these Peace Corps volunteers? Hours that are too long and pay that's too short. But the rewards are plenty. They learn a new language, a new way of life. They learn that they're everything they hoped they'd be, and more. Join the Peace Corps volunteers who asked me to relay this message. Having a peaceful time, wish you were here. Call the Peace Corps toll-free, 800-424-8580, a public service of this station and the Advertising Council.
About this matter known as coincidence, there are two definite schools of thought. Most of us think practically, that is, we believe coincidence is the random crisscrossing of two unrelated events. A surprisingly large number of scholars, however, are enrolled in the program that preaches there is a plan. Each event in this world is irrevocably connected to another by some mysterious universal directive. Nothing happens by accident. This revelation, while soothing to many, may be quite distressing to others.
Doreen, what did you just say?
Maybe Mavis Gumbler's death wasn't an accident.
But of course it was an accident.
Well, I find it rather strange for a man to just leave his wife in a sinking car. There's something about this accident that bothers me.
Tell me.
I can't explain it. It's just a feeling.
Uh-oh, look out.
No, I'm serious, Melissa. Don't you find it strange that a woman should die the same day I print the answer to a letter?
I still don't understand.
I think Mr. Gumbler let his wife drown.
He let her drown? But why?
Well, you remember what she said in her letter. He was violent. She wanted to leave him. That says it all.
You mean he'd let her die rather than lose her?
Well, it's not uncommon.
Doreen, maybe the husband was no great bargain, but it doesn't necessarily mean he'd let her drown.
I told you already, something bothers me about this.
Now, it isn't as if you really knew these people.
Well, what's to know?
Facts. Hard facts.
How do you measure facts up against instinct? Look, I know there's something fishy.
How do you prove that a person let another person drown?
I don't know. But he let his wife drown.
Doreen, why are you so concerned about a total stranger like Mavis Gumbler?
Well, she wasn't exactly a stranger. She was one of my readers.
You have millions of readers. I've never known you to become so involved.
Whenever I give a reader advice, Melissa, I am involved.
In all the years I've worked for you, your involvement ends when you put your signature on a reply.
You're right.
So why this special interest all of a sudden?
Maybe I owe her something.
What would you owe Mavis Gumbler?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. What other mail is there today?
The Chamber of Commerce wants you to speak at a luncheon.
Oh, it's that time again.
Shall I tell them you accept?
Yes.
There's also what appears to be an upstate newspaper, the Greenfield Gazette, and a voucher for your expense.
Oh, the Greenfield Gazette. Oh, let me take a look.
When did you start receiving the Greenfield Gazette?
Oh, I sent away for it. There's a lot you can learn from reading small-town papers. Readers, attitudes, trends. It's all very interesting.
Greenfield. Isn't that the same town Mavis Gumbler was from?
Yes.
Now, you're not still thinking about that, are you?
So, that's what she looked like.
Who?
Mavis Gumbler. Her picture's in the paper.
Oh.
They're naming some sort of scholarship after her.
Doreen, you're obsessed.
That's absurd. Obsessed with what?
With a person you've never met. With an accident you believe you might have caused.
That's not so.
No. Then why for the past 2 weeks have you gone out of your way to find out everything you can about that woman? Even sending away for her local newspaper.
Well, I'm curious.
What do you owe Mavis Gumbler?
I'm not sure.
Now, you're not blaming yourself for her death.
Look at her face. Look at her face, Melissa.
I saw it.
Well, she almost seems to be saying something. Look.
What am I supposed to see?
Her eyes. She's trying to tell me something.
Why are you torturing yourself like this?
I am not torturing myself. I'm simply stating a fact. Weren't you telling me before that I should rely more on facts? Mavis Gumbler is trying to tell me something. That's a fact.
What is she trying to tell you?
I don't know yet, but I intend to find out. What did you want to speak to me about, Mr. Smith?
Call me Jenkins. I call you Doreen, don't I?
Everybody calls me Doreen.
Well, I want to ask you something. When was the last time you took a vacation?
I don't like vacations. They're boring.
You've got a lot of time coming to you.
Why are you so concerned?
I'm your boss, and also I happen to like you. I'd hate to see you get into a rut.
Well, what makes you think I'm in a rut?
I know the signs, believe me. Doreen, I want to apologize to you for anything I might have said before that was in the least bit insulting. I'm trying to admit that in your way you do what every journalist tries to do.
You mean write?
No. You try to find the answers to questions.
That's what I do, all right.
You seek.
And what do I seek?
The truth?
The truth.
I suppose that sounds almost corny. But I've always felt a newspaper owed its readers the truth.
Yes. That's exactly what we owe our readers. We owe them the truth.
We actually agree on something.
Oh, we agree. We most certainly agree. And I think I will take a little vacation.
The Bahamas are great this time of the year.
No, I'm going up to the country. Ever hear of a place called Greenfield?
Can I help you?
I'm looking for the sheriff.
Well, I'm the sheriff, ma'am.
Oh,
By the I suppose you mean the suit. Not every country sheriff wears the traditional uniform, Miss...
Compton. Doreen Compton.
What can I do for you, Miss Compton?
Well, this is the same town of Greenfield in which several weeks ago there was an auto accident involving Mrs. Mavis Gumbler.
Poor Mavis. Did you know her, Miss Compton?
In a way, yes.
Wonderful woman, Mrs. Gumbler. Very highly thought of in the community. Great tragedy.
Sheriff, would you mind very much telling me how it happened? I'd feel a lot better if I knew all the facts.
Well, sure. Why don't you make yourself comfortable and have a seat, ma'am?
Oh, thank you.
You see, there really isn't much to tell. It was about 8, know how dark it still is this time of year. The road was slick from melting snow, and the car skidded right off the road down the embankment into the river. Mr. Gumbler managed to swim free of the car, but Mrs. Gumbler, apparently unconscious, remained inside the submerged vehicle. And those are all the facts.
Sheriff, I have in my possession some information pertinent to the case.
What case?
What have we just been talking about? The Mavis Gumbler case.
But there is no case, ma'am.
Very well, the investigation.
Well, what investigation?
Well, considering the mysterious circumstances of her death, surely an investigation is in order.
Miss Compton, in what way was Mavis Gumbler's death mysterious?
Well, don't you find it odd that her husband never went back to the car to try and rescue her?
It was tragic, perhaps, but not odd.
Well, if somebody I loved was trapped in a submerged car, I'd certainly...
You ever been in an accident, ma'am?
Well, no, but I...
Then perhaps you might not be aware of a state known as shock.
Well, of course I've heard of shock.
Putting that aside for a moment, have you ever tried to return to a submerged car?
Well, but it's possible he
Have
may
you any idea how difficult, no, how near impossible it is to see underwater?
No, I didn't realize that.
You've made some serious allegations, ma'am. Is it your belief that Freddie Gumbler deliberately let his wife drown?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Well, now, you mentioned evidence. What kind of evidence?
Well, I have here a letter written to me by Mavis Gumbler shortly before her death.
May I see it, please?
Are you aware that she intended to leave her husband?
No. I was not aware of that.
Yes, well, it's all here, in this letter. She wanted my advice.
Your advice?
That's how I make a living, Sheriff. I write an advice column.
An advice column?
Here, this is the letter.
Oh, you're dear Doreen. The dear Doreen.
Look, perhaps this may sound rather silly to you, but the fact that she died so soon after writing this letter, and so soon after I printed my answer, well, it made me wonder whether or not the accident was coincidental.
Well, Miss Compton, everybody knows Freddie had a temper. This letter doesn't prove a thing.
Maybe not proof, but at least it sheds some light on... Well, what I'm trying to say is, isn't it at all possible
that Freddie, with his temper, would be so riled up at the thought of Mavis leaving him that he'd let her drown rather than let her walk out on him?
Well, isn't that what you'd call a crime of passion?
Now, you can't convince me what happened to Mavis Gumbler was a crime of passion.
Didn't come here to start trouble.
No, I'm sure you meant well.
I owe it to Mavis Gumbler to find out the truth.
Well, you answered her letter and you told her to go ahead and leave Freddie, didn't you?
Well, in fact, I did.
Well, now, excuse me for saying this, but do you feel you owe Mavis something because you, perhaps, feel guilty?
It's not guilt.
Well, what is it?
I have nothing to be guilty about. It's just a feeling I have, that's all.
A feeling?
Yes, Sheriff. It's a kind of intuition that I've always had. Something instinctively disturbs me about what happened to Mrs. Gumbler.
You mean you came all the way up here because of a feeling?
Perhaps if I could just see
I've already anticipated your next question. Here you are, Miss Compton.
There's photographs of a body.
That's what you were about to ask me for, am I right?
Is that Mavis Gumbler?
After she was taken from the water, as you can see.
Yes, I can see that.
Well, haven't you ever seen a dead body before, Miss Compton?
No, not a picture like this. Not a... Wait, just a minute. This picture...
I beg your pardon?
There's something in this picture. It's wrong.
What do you mean?
Well, something just isn't right.
Well, what isn't right?
I don't know. But this woman's death was not an accident.
In all fairness to the accepted rules of storytelling, we admit that certain clues have already been furnished in Act One. We like to think that you, the listener, have grown rather adept at deciphering the puzzles concocted here regularly. Detectives who use intuition as a means of solving mysteries are well aware that this phenomena is the subconscious mind's analysis of facts. I'll be back shortly with Act 3.
I like pickles, but they don't like me.
Send your stomach some Digel.
I like pizza, but it doesn't like me.
Send your stomach some Digel.
Digel's special combination of antacid and anti-gas ingredients gives you fast, gentle relief from acid indigestion, heartburn, and gas in just minutes.
I like hot dogs, but they don't like me.
Send your stomach some Digel.
For occasional use only as directed.
It's a good day for good deal, no matter where you are. And those good deals at Goodyear will put more Goodyears in your car.
Tiempo, Goodyear's breakthrough in steel-belted radial design for handling, traction, and mileage. White walls start at $39 plus $193 FET and old tire in metric size to fit BR 7813. See your Goodyear retailer for Tiempo.
And those good deals at Goodyear help put more Goodyears in your car.
Surround yourself with comfortable feelings for those beautiful moments in life.
At Wicks Furniture.
There's a feeling that surrounds you when you're proud of your fine home. A reflection of the way you live and the people you have known. And when you need a friend to help you choose the very best, we can give you years of pleasure with beauty.
Furniture.
Rick's Furniture will brighten your home for those beautiful moments in life.
This is WBBM in Chicago.
By what power do we become the victims of an obsession? Is it the power of guilt, vanity, or perhaps obsession is a force all of its own? Why would a woman travel hundreds of miles to a rural town in upstate New York to prove someone's death was not an accident? A person who was a total stranger? From where does the energy come that fuels each person's individual quest for truth? A quest so often launched with a double-edged sword. For while we all feel compelled to seek the truth, are we not also afraid of what we will find?
Let me understand this, Miss Compton. You say you feel that Mavis Gumbler didn't die accidentally.
Yes, Sheriff, I somehow know she didn't.
I already explained to you, ma'am, that it's impossible to prove her death was anything but an accident.
I'm not talking about the accident.
Well, what are we talking about then?
I believe she was dead, or at least unconscious before the accident.
How on earth did you arrive at that conclusion?
Well, I can't explain it. There's something about that picture.
Yeah, but you can't quite put your finger on it, is that it?
Correct.
Now, I don't know what kind of world you live in, Miss Compton, but allow me to explain what the reality is up here in Greenfield. A person, might I say a fine person, has died and been laid to rest. I have no intention of permitting you, or anyone else for that matter, to cause further pain and anguish to the bereaved, unless you're prepared to back up your accusation with facts.
But, Sheriff,
I warn you, Miss Compton, not to make a nuisance of yourself.
I have no intention of leaving until I have solved this matter to my satisfaction. And one thing about the country, it's beautiful at night. I couldn't take a walk like this in the city. Still, I suppose I had better get back to the hotel. Oh, who's there? I said, who's there? Who are you?
You're her, aren't you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're her. You're dear Doreen.
But who are you?
I had to see you. I had to know what you look like.
Who are you?
Why did you have to come here? Why couldn't you just leave us alone?
You're Mr. Gumbler.
How could you be so cruel? How could you tell Mavis to leave me?
Oh, now, Mr. Gumbler,
Don't you know a woman's place is with her husband?
Look, in the first place, I didn't...
She'd be alive if it weren't for you.
I beg your pardon.
You and that stupid column of yours. You had to put ideas into Mavis's head.
It wasn't my idea for her to...
You're the one that caused all the trouble between Mavis and me, pretending you know how to solve other people's problems. A meddler is what you are.
If you will excuse me, Mr. Gumbler, I really should be returning to my hotel.
It's your fault she's dead.
I refuse to stand here in the cold night air and argue with you.
Go on, walk away. But I warn you, Miss Dear Doreen, you're not welcome here. The sooner you leave, the better.
Are you threatening me?
It's more than a threat. It's a promise.
What on earth? Who is it?
It's the sheriff, Miss Compton.
Oh, just a minute.
Sorry to disturb you at this hour, ma'am.
Oh, excuse the robe, Sheriff, but I was about to go to bed.
Now, don't apologize. I want you to get a good night's sleep, because you'll be leaving first thing in the morning.
Leaving? I don't understand.
Well, didn't I specifically ask you, ma'am, not to make a nuisance of yourself?
Well, I haven't.
When did you listen to me? No. Of all people, you have to go harassing Freddie Gumbler.
What? If anyone was harassed, it was I. I'll have you know that man threatened me.
Well, can you blame him after the way you upset him? How dare you accuse him of laying a hand on his wife?
He's lying. I never said such things.
You asked me to believe you over Freddie, a man I've known for 20 years?
Sheriff, credit me with a little delicacy.
Didn't I hear you with my own ears in my office accuse him of murder?
Well, I admit that. But
now, who am I supposed to believe? I'm asking you. No, I'm telling you to leave town in the morning.
That isn't fair.
Now, stop causing trouble just because you got your own guilty conscience.
Of all... Sheriff, I am not some little Miss Nobody. I am Doreen Compton.
I know who you are.
I don't think you do. I know the Attorney General of this state. I am personally acquainted with the First Lady. I can give you a list of senators, congressmen who are good friends of mine. I even know your boss, the governor. I can make things pretty uncomfortable for you if you insist on treating me like some stupid little old lady.
Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly put all your cards on the table, don't you, ma'am?
When you force my hand.
All right. You can stay.
And that's not all.
What now?
I've got to see those pictures of Mavis Gumbler's body again.
This minute?
I told you before that I thought Mavis Gumbler was dead before the car accident. Well, now I'm sure of it, and I think I can prove it.
You can prove it,
The answer is in those pictures. Something that bothered me before, but I couldn't put my finger on it till now.
Yeah, I know. You had a feeling.
No, it's not a feeling. Now I know exactly what I'm looking for.
Miss Compton, you've been staring at that picture for half an hour.
I knew it. I knew before there was something wrong with this picture. Do you see it, Sheriff?
See what?
You can't see it because you're a man. That's the point. Freddie Gumbler didn't notice it either, and that's where he made his fatal mistake.
I understand. You're saying that because I'm a man means that I can't see...
Can't see something that proves to me beyond the shadow of a doubt that Mavis Gumbler was dead, or at least unconscious, before she even left the house and got into that car.
No, I still don't see it.
Mavis Gumbler used to be a high-fashion model. She knew everything there was to know about clothes, about being fashionable. Till the day she died, she had a reputation for being chic.
Well, now, I won't argue with you there. Freddie Gumbler spent a fortune on clothes for his wife.
The suit that she's wearing in this picture, it's a Bertie of Paris original. His things sell for $700 or more. I know, because I've bought them myself.
Now, what does this have to do with proving...
A woman as fashionable as Mavis Gumbler would never have made a mistake like this.
I wish you'd tell me, ma'am.
I'll tell you. Right now, Sheriff.
Sheriff, what's going on here?
Sit down, Freddie.
What's this all about?
Freddie, I want you to tell me again, from the beginning, what really happened the day of the accident.
What really happened? Well, Sheriff, I've already told you what happened.
Tell me again.
I don't understand.
Just tell me, Freddie.
Oh, wait a minute. Who's that over there?
That's a stenographer.
Well, why do you need it? What's going on here?
Tell me the truth, Freddie.
I already told you. Mavis and I had dinner, and we changed into our Sunday best for that party over at the Prestons.
And then?
Well, you know the rest. We were on the River Road. The car skidded. We went right over the embankment. The waters were high from the rains we'd been having. The car sank in seconds. I remember swimming, not getting anywhere. I must have blacked out as soon as I hit the shore again.
And Mavis was still in the car, unconscious, dead, whatever came first.
Oh, come on, please. I can't bear to talk about it anymore.
What really happened?
I just told you.
You're lying.
No, I'm not.
Freddie.
It's the truth. I swear it's the truth.
We know you did it.
Did what? It was an accident.
What did you hit her with?
It wasn't like that.
What was it like then?
I hit her with my hand. I didn't think I hit her that hard.
Was she dead?
She was going to leave me, Sheriff. She couldn't stand for me to touch her anymore, she said. How could she leave me? I couldn't let her leave me.
Was she dead then, Freddie?
No. Oh, maybe. I don't know anymore. I put on my suit. I dressed Mavis in her fanciest new outfit. I put her in the car. Like we were going to that party. Like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm. And then what, Freddie?
We drove around for a while, and soon it was like old times. Me and Mavis all dressed up, going to town. I started to talk to her. Looks like more rain, Mavis. I said. Sheriff, I realized then she wasn't going to answer me. She was never going to answer me. I pressed my foot down on the accelerator, and that's when I went into that skid. When the car went crashing down the embankment, I was thinking, this is what dying feels like. But when the car hit the water and started to sink, and soon the water was up past the windows and dark and cold, and I still wasn't dead, I knew I was afraid. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live.
And so you managed to get out of the car and leave Mavis behind.
I left her behind.
All right, Freddie.
Sheriff, how did you know?
How did I know? Your wife told me.
Mavis told you?
Her picture, Freddie. Her picture told me.
Her picture?
It was the one thing that proved your wife couldn't have dressed herself. But it took a woman to spot it.
You do see, Sheriff. You do see what I mean.
Yes, indeed I do.
Mavis Gumbler would never have walked out of the house dressed that way. A $700 suit with the skirt on backwards. Anyone as fashion-conscious as she was would know that for this suit, the zipper does not zip up in the front.
As good be out of the world as out of fashion, so the saying goes. As always, it's the little things, the so very insignificant details that become our undoing. The microscopic blunders, invisible to the untrained eye, just as easily emerge as glaring discrepancies to the more sophisticated observer. I'll be back shortly.
I'm excited about my life. I'm not wandering around. I'm really determined now.
That's Kelly Blixton. She might still be working as a waitress if she hadn't gone to technical school. Instead, she's working as an electrician.
I started my involvement in the electrical field approximately 3 years ago. And in retrospect, I was very confused about a lot of things at that time. I didn't feel very good about myself. I hadn't done anything. Now, after the number of years and the amount of study and the amount of work that I have put in and the discipline, it's not that I feel I have achieved something. I know I have achieved something. I really like who I am a lot.
If you think technical school might be what you're looking for, write Careers, Box 111, Washington, D.C., 20044. We'll send you a free record brochure that could change your whole life. A public service of this station, the U.S. Offices of Education, and the Advertising Council.
Of all the destructive powers that lay within the mind, surely guilt must be the most awesome. How are we to explain the vulnerability of even the most confident human being to the ravages of this simple emotion? What is this ceaseless drive to learn the truth at any cost? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in our respect for those truths which are painful only when we avoid facing them. After all, are not the invisible burdens the heaviest? Our cast included Carol Teitel, Cork Benson, Arnold Moss, and Martha Greenhouse. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Did the Earth capture the moon? Or did the moon attach itself to the Earth?
Did the Earth capture the moon, or did the moon attach itself to the Earth? Well, does that mean that you are the Earth and I am the moon? Is that how it is?
Or you are the Earth, and I am the moon. That could be how it is, too.
And whichever way it is, we are bound to each other. We love each other. Is that it?
Wait. Hush. Wait.
Wait for what?
A sign. Wait for a sign.
Well, what happened? What was that?
Look, the apple tree.
It's split. It's split right down from the center.
It's a sign.
This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm Tammy Grimes. They keep doing it, and for the most part, they're apprehended. Why, then, do they do it? Since when they're caught, it means either the chair or a life sentence. I'm talking about murder. Hate, jealousy, fear, revenge, money, and variations on those themes are the most popular motives. A gamble, really, in which the slayer values life, including his own, too cheaply. But today, it is not a tale of why or how murder was committed, but how the law and fate closed in on the killer.
Andy, why did you attempt to leave town? Because Cornelius told me to.
What did he say to you?
He said, the heat's on, Andy. You better move on. And I said, where'll I go? And he said, here's $500. Go as far as you can. And I said, why? He said, there's been a death in the family, and you don't want to know anything about it.
Our drama, The Imperfect Crime, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by James Agate Jr. and stars Russell Horton. I shall return shortly with Act 1.
If you've been waiting to buy a new appliance, your White Westinghouse dealer is now offering great values on brand new White Westinghouse 1982 models of refrigerators, freezers, washers, dryers, dishwashers, and ranges. And just when you need it most, White Westinghouse dealers are featuring a great spring price down event on previous year's models, floor samples, and other price down values. So buy now and clean up at the White Westinghouse Great Spring Price Down.
White Westinghouse, we're making things better for you.
Okay, roll the TV spot. We open on the Great Pyramid in downtown Dayton.
Dayton?
We moved it there for this commercial, Mr. Van Ordner.
Looks so expensive.
Suddenly, an elephant enters with a man on top. He's holding a can of Van Ordner tuna.
Why an elephant?
The tuna with the jumbo taste. Fade to black.
Why couldn't you use radio? Costs less, targets the right audience than it sells.
How could we show the Pyramid Dayton and the elephant on radio?
You just did.
Radio. Red hot because it works. For more facts on radio, call this station of the Radio Advertising Bureau. They brought you this message.
Jules, a cake for your daughter's birthday, your favorite late night snack.
Jules, your Sunday roast beef dinner, school lunches that you pack. We've been a friend of the family for 50 years. Your friend of the family, Jewel.
Change your cooking style. Get out the grill and get plenty of Jewel values, like Armour Star hot dogs. Pick up a 1-pound package for 99 cents through Wednesday at Jewel. And don't forget the buns. Buy 2 packages of 8 Jewel-made hot dog or hamburger buns for $1 through Wednesday.
Choose your anniversary dinner. Choose your backyard barbecue. The fixings that you pack up for those picnics at the zoo. We've been a friend of the family for 50 years. Your friend of the family. Friend of the family. Your friend of the family. Jewel.
It could be any medium-sized town with the Hoosgow houses, more drunks than desperados. So Chief of Detectives Charlie Allen was not expecting that phone call from Officer Kowalski at the end of his 1 a.m. shift, reporting what appeared to be the result of a hit-and-run accident.
What do you mean, appears to be, Kowalski? Did you find the deceased in a bar, in bed, or in the middle of a street?
On the corner of 22nd and J, Chief. The victim is a female, about 50 years old, but she's dressed funny.
Kowalski, would you mind clarifying that statement, she's dressed funny?
Well, she ain't dressed for going out in the street. She's got pajamas on.
That's all?
No, a robe over that, but no shoes. Like she got up out of bed and walked out of the house.
Yeah. Any other IDs?
I don't see any pocketbook, but I'll take a good look when the boys get her over to the morgue. I'll ride with him.
No, you won't. You call Bob Brody, the photographer, and get him over there before you remove the body. I want pictures from every angle.
Yes, Chief.
You got anyone with you?
Officer Parisi, sir.
Okay. You get him to knock on all the doors of nearby houses, ask who heard anything or saw anything at what time.
I'd like to do that, Chief, but 22nd and J is a square mile of nothing. That's where they were going to build a housing development. Only rats and cockroaches live here.
No nearest house.
No, not one. And even if there was, the streetlights are all out. That's probably how the female got hit.
Kowalski, come in and see me before you go off duty.
It could be morning. You going to be there, Chief?
If I ever heard of a case that requires overtime, this is it. You bet I'll be here. Police headquarters, Charlie Allen speaking.
Charles, I've been trying to get you for hours. Your line is always busy.
Is that you, Matilda?
Well, certainly it's me. Are you coming home for a late dinner? I've kept it warm for you for hours. Now I want to get to bed.
Well, I can't. There's a case that's breaking.
Charles Allen, you're impossible.
Yes, darling.
It better be a matter of life and death. That's all I can say.
Nah, it ain't life. Kowalski just called in to report a hit-and-run victim. We have to get on that trail before it gets cold.
Oh, dear me. A car accident?
Yeah, it sounds like an accident, but my Sherlock bones tell me it could be murder.
Charles and his Sherlock bones. That's what he always calls his hunches. feeling it in his Sherlock bones. If I wasn't so sure he loved me, I'd be a little suspicious all those times he stays late. Oh, I know, I wasn't the first woman he loved, but I am the only one he married.
Cornelius, I didn't mean to get you up so early, but I need your help.
Charlie, 6 o'clock is a wee small hour, but you know me. Once a public defender, always at the service of the public. Just because I'm retired doesn't mean I wouldn't get up at the crack of dawn to help our men in blue.
You don't have to give me all that, Cornelius. I was only apologizing for the inconvenience. Now, you see this ring? And put on your glasses so you can see the inscription. It says, from Charlie to Jesse. Now, this was a gift from a high school senior to a high school junior about 30 years ago.
Isn't that nice?
This ring was the only ID on a hit-and-run victim picked up last night at 22nd and J.
I'm following you, Charlie. Charlie?
Yeah, that's right. I'm the Charlie, and I gave this ring to Jessie Havermeyer 30 years ago. We were in school together. Ooh, I was crazy about her. Yeah, then I went off to college, and when I came home, Jessie had married Winfield Scott. And, the Scotts owned this town. They had all the money. So I couldn't really blame Jessie.
Jessie Scott, a hit-and-run victim. Good Lord.
After Winfield passed away, she went on wearing my ring. Nice sort of thing between old friends, but that's all there was. Just this ring. Look, I'm asking you as a favor, because I can't do it. Would you go down to the morgue and make a positive identification? I can't be the one.
Oh, of course I will. I quite understand how awful it would be for you. I sincerely hope it isn't her.
The ring, Cornelius. And Kowalski described a woman who sure could be Jessie.
She could have lost the ring. Somebody else picked it up. Gave it to this poor woman. Who knows? I'll go over, of course I will. Maybe it's not Jessie. Don't give up hope. The victim, you say, whoever she turns out to be, was hit by a car?
Yeah, that's all we know now.
All right, I better get going. It's certainly an unhappy day for me if it turns out to be Jessie. She was one of those marvelous people you thought would go on forever.
Yeah, that's the way I remember her, too. I'm really gonna miss Jessie.
We all are. If it's her, let's pray it isn't.
Charles didn't come home at all that night. He called me in the morning with the sad news that the hit-and-run victim was Jessie Scott. It had been confirmed by Cornelius Spry. I didn't know what to say to Charles, because since we were children, Jessie was the one love of his life. When are you coming home, I asked him.
What did you say, Matilda?
I said, when are you coming home? Where are you?
I'm in a squad car, Matilda. Kowalski's driving me to where they picked her up. I mean, you know.
Of course I know. It must be very difficult for you.
Yeah, I'll be talking to you. Bye.
I could have brought the tire moulages over to you, Chief.
It's okay. I wanted to see where it happened for myself. Oh, and I want to thank Jack for working overtime to make them right. And you've been putting in some long hours on this, too, Kowalski.
It's funny how some cases keep you up right around the clock and you don't even feel it. I guess it's because I knew she was a good friend of yours.
You realize this is a promotion for you, Kowalski.
No, I didn't, Chief.
Not in money, maybe, but I just took you off the street beat and put you in a car. Now, that's a promotion.
Yes, sir. You mean I get to keep this?
Yes, you do. Where are we?
Stanton and 9th.
Hey, what kept you from picking me up? I wanted to get out to 22nd and J before the heavy morning traffic.
You don't have to worry, Chief. Where we found the body is all cordoned off. A block each way. Detour signs and everything.
Good thinking.
I figured even though Brody got the pictures,
You'd want to examine the place and check the moulages.
Yeah, you figured right.
Traffic ahead. I better hit the blower. We'll make better time on Fremont. You were asking me what kept me. I was there when Mr. Spry, Cornelius Spry, came into the morgue just about when I was telling your medical examiner about the ring and who you thought it was. So I figured I'd hang around to see what Spry said, you know?
Yeah, I know. He identified Mrs. Scott.
With tears in his eyes. When was the time of death, he asks. And the M.E. says around 10 o'clock last night. And Cornelius Spry asks, did the M.E. take in the fights last night? And then he says he was there at the arena, and he hopes he still has the stubs in his other suit to prove it. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, it is. Why would he think someone might ask him where he was?
I figured maybe you were going to put him on the carpet.
It hadn't occurred to me, but maybe I will. I wouldn't want to disappoint him.
Right here. Jack, I got the chief here. You got those moulages of the tire tracks?
Right here. Good morning, Chief.
Boy, as clean a pair of tracks as you could ever get.
Went back and forth twice, like they wanted to make sure of something.
Take a look at these, Kowalski. We sure ought to be able to find the car that made them.
At least since you came home for lunch, you can take smaller bites, Charles, and not bolt that egg salad sandwich that way.
Am I supposed to eat eggs?
In moderation. One egg salad sandwich a week won't hurt you. But if you bolt it down, you'll get heartburn again.
You know, you could have put a pickle and some potato chips on the side.
There's no nourishment in those things. Eat slowly.
Matilda, you knew Jessie, huh?
What are you going to ask me?
Now, what would she be doing at night? In pajamas and a robe, miles from her house, walking along J and 22nd. I mean, can you think of any reason why she'd be there?
No, I can't.
Did she have any history of amnesia or something? Did you ever hear any strange things, like sleepwalking, for instance?
No, I'd say of all the girls in our class, I think Jessie had her head screwed on the tightest. She knew what she was doing.
Matilda, you know, she was wearing a ring I gave her when we were in school together. Had it on her finger when she was run over.
I'm sorry, Charles. I'm truly sorry.
The problem is, I don't believe it was an accident. But if it was murder, why?
Money?
Money?
No one really knows how much money she had, except maybe Ken Bradley at the bank. But I bet you there's not one person in town who doesn't believe Winfield Scott left her a packet.
I hadn't thought of that.
Well, think of it then. She was a wealthy woman.
That's the way to go. A, assume she was not the victim of a hit and run, and B, whoever did it was after money.
I could have told you that. Charles, where are you going?
Back to the station house.
He's like a bulldog once he gets started on a case. It's hard to keep him sleeping and eating right, so I always try to help him without his knowing it. Ken Bradley, president of the National Bank's an old friend. Well, I called him to ask if Jessie Scott had drawn out any big sums recently or written any large checks. And if so, to whom? Ken would tell me on the QT. And then all I had to do was make Charles believe it was his idea to follow that lead.
What makes this story different, even in the annals of police work, is the personal element. True, no matter who the victim was, the chief of detectives would have turned over every stone, every clue, run down every rumor, and interrogated every possible witness. But because it was Jessie Scott who had died, Charlie Allen wouldn't be able to eat, sleep, or rest until he knew who was guilty. I shall return shortly with Act 2.
I'm Lorette Rupi, Director of Peace Corps. In 60 countries around the world, Peace Corps volunteers are sharing their skills and knowledge with people who really need them. But we need more volunteers, and we need them now. Volunteers are urgently needed in agriculture, math, science, and biology. Call Peace Corps now for more information. 800-424-8580. It's the toughest job you'll ever love.
A public service message of this station
and Peace Corps.
Do you have a sight problem that prevents you from reading? Hi, this is Max Morath with news about Choice Magazine Listening, a free service. 6 times yearly, Choice Magazine Listening brings you, on 8 RPM phonograph records, 8 hours of selections from leading magazines. For information, write Listening, Box 10, Port Washington, New York, 11050. Remember, it's free. Write Listening, Box 10, Port Washington, New York, 11050. A public service message on behalf of the nonprofit Lucerna Fund.
We'll take more care of you by the British way.
The British way means the way we care for you, both in the air and once you're here in Britain. It means pageantry, so you can catch up on history, historic department stores, so you can catch up on shopping. And if you want to discover Britain at your own speed, we'll get you a Ford Fiesta for a mere $17 a day. Taxes and petrol on you, of course. We'll also get you a room with private bath at the Kennedy Hotel in London for an incredible $19 a night per person. Double occupancy. We've all kinds of excitement and tours that permit you to do your own thing. Prices are even lower than last year, so do come. British Airways will take more care of you.
No one knows Britain better than British Airways. You can choose from 22 other London hotels for up to $60 a day. Prices effective through October 31st, 1982. So call your travel agent and ask about London hotel bargains and Britain car rental.
In the law versus the lawless, the division is sharp. The hunter versus the hunted. As our curtain rises on Act 2, we have met the hunter, Chief of Detectives Charlie Allen. Who he hunts will depend upon what he finds and how he interprets his findings. Within 18 hours of the reported crime, Charlie and Officer Kowalski stand in front of a certain house on a tree-lined street in the better part of town.
Is this where she lived, Chief?
I used to park right where you're standing, Kowalski. I'd go and ring the doorbell of her house, drop in, have a cup of coffee. We'd talk about the old days. Sometimes I'd pull right up into this driveway. Yeah, let's get the garage door.
Yeah, sure. I got the light. Hey, the place is empty.
Yeah, well, Jessie didn't own a car. She didn't drive.
Somebody did.
Well, tire cracks. Kowalski, you got those tire moulages with you?
Yeah, they're in the radio car.
Get them, will you?
What are you thinking?
Just a little feeling I got in my Sherlock bones.
What do you suspect?
Suspect? All I do is observe. What are tire tracks doing in Jessie's garage? Go on, Kowalski. Get the moulages and bring them here.
Be right back, Chief.
They don't look so different, do they? See that little bulge made by the right front tire? Looks a lot like what we've got from 22nd and J.
They're identical, Chief. What do you think it means?
Murder. First-degree murder.
How do you figure that?
Someone brought a car into this garage and got Jessie into it, alive or dead. But she was particular about keeping the garage locked. So it must have been someone she knew who asked her to have it open that night. They pull out, find a dark stretch on J and 22nd.
Yeah, none of the street lights was working.
Perfect place to dump her out and maybe run her over to make it look like a hit and run.
Yeah, that could be.
Kowalski, I want you to run a rope around the garage and the house. And I want 2 shifts on guard. Nobody is allowed in.
Yes, Chief.
Get Murdoch on the blower. Tell him to bring his equipment over here. I want a complete dusting of the garage for anything that shouldn't be here. Fingerprints, strands of hair, match, cigarette. Tell him Jessie didn't smoke. He'll know what to do. And if we haven't been stupid enough to smudge the fingerprints on the overhead door handle, who knows? Then, when he's through in here, the same routine in the house.
You think she was murdered here?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Murdoch. Okay, I'll get him. Shall I use the car radio?
No, there's a phone over there on the wall. Pick it up with your handkerchief.
Hey, it rang. That's spooky, ain't it?
Someone dialed Jessie and the garage extension's on the same line.
You going to pick it up?
Give me your handkerchief. Hello?
Charles, it's me, Matilda.
I knew it could only be you, honey.
How did you know?
You know how my mind works.
Did you find anything in Jesse's house?
No, we're not in there. Kowalski and I are in the garage. What'd you call me for?
Well, I didn't think you could wait. I just heard from Ken Bradley at the National Bank.
Now, you sure you didn't call him?
And he said, had I heard from Jessie lately? And I said, didn't he know that she was in an accident?
Matilda, what's this all about?
Well, nothing, except Jessie has her account in the same bank as we do. Maybe Ken knows something, that's all. I thought maybe since he's an old friend, you'd want to see him.
Gotcha. Matilda, that's good thinking.
Will you be home for dinner?
I'll let you know. Hey, thanks for the call. Bye. That wife of mine, Kowalski, says a banker we know just happened to call her, the bank where Jesse Scott kept her money.
Money? Maybe a motive, huh?
You bet your shield. Yeah, Matilda, she sure makes me laugh.
What's the joke?
It's not the first time. She hound dogs these clues, see? Then hands me just enough.
I don't think I get that.
That's a little involved. What it comes down to is when a cop becomes a detective like me and he gets married, before he knows it, he doesn't have a wife. He's married to another detective. Ken, I'm glad you could see me.
I talked to your wife, Charlie. She said you'd be coming over because Jesse... Well, it doesn't look like an accident.
I don't think it was, Ken. I'm giving out a story to the papers today. Jessie set great store by your advice, if I remember. Not only financial, am I right?
If she did, she never showed it. I remember trying to advise her on long-term securities. But no, she had to listen to him.
Cornelius?
Swallowed his line, hook and sinker. Dying like that in the streets. Incomprehensible.
Exactly our feelings, Ken. That's why we're taking a very close look.
Jessie was such a lovely person. Generous, helpful.
I can tell you now. Someone didn't unknowingly run her down. It was planned and premeditated.
But who? And why?
I don't yet know who. But the why could be money. And that's why I wanted to see you, Ken. So the advice on investments Jessie listened to came from Cornelius, acting as her attorney.
Well, not only that. Since presumably he had Jessie's best interests at heart, she gave him, in some misguided moment, power of attorney.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Nobody did. Cornelius dropped a lot of her money she'd inherited from Winfield into mining stock, gold stock, oil exploration, all risky investments.
Well, still, a mistake is a mistake.
If it was. A lot of her funds, in fact, everything that wasn't nailed down in an irrevocable trust, just plain disappeared. Vanished.
Her money? Vanished? How much?
Well, into 6 figures. And if I did nothing else for Jessie, at least I alerted her to that fact. It was right here, Charlie, in this office, not 2 weeks ago. She sat where you're sitting, and Cornelius sat to her right. I can still hear him saying, Jessie, Jessie, don't you trust me?
6 figures? Well, that could be 200,000.
More than twice that.
So, in effect, there was a shortage of about $500,000 of Jessie's money. Ken, thanks. You've given me something I didn't have before.
Have I? Well, what is it, Charlie?
A motive for a murder. Well, come in, Kowalski. What's the story?
I don't know how much of this is useful. I don't think Cornelius Spry is doing as well as he likes to make out, money-wise. You know, he's got a chauffeur who drives him around.
Andy Moran. Yeah, I know all about him. Moran served 2 years for robbery, and Cornelius Spry got him out with a personal pitch to the parole board. He works for him now.
That's right. Anyway, Andy lives near where I do, he and his wife, June. We go to the same bar in Littleton. Well, he and I got to drinking, and maybe he said more than he wanted to. He said that until a few days ago, he hadn't been getting paid.
Well, what happened a few days ago?
Suddenly, his boss paid up everything he owes him.
What kind of car does he chauffeur?
I thought of that right away. Struck a wall. That's what I meant when I said I don't know how useful this will be. I thought, who knows, maybe I'll go around to Spry's garage and check the tires, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got no car. It's been in the shop for 3 weeks now.
That's what Moran told you.
Yeah. So he says, I guess I really can't complain, seeing as how I haven't been doing much chauffeuring for him.
Try to remember, Kowalski. Did Andy Moran say he hadn't been doing much or hadn't been doing any driving?
I'm not sure.
Bring him in. I think you've got something.
He said he might go fishing one of these days. Didn't say where.
But you're going to find out where, like all good detectives, aren't you, Kowalski?
Charlie, the press boys have asked me to get your statement on the Jesse Scott hit and run.
The police department has come to the conclusion that Mrs. Winfield Scott did not suffer death at the corner of J and 22nd as a result of a hit-and-run accident as earlier reported. Am I going too fast for you, Mary?
Nope.
We now have definite proof Mrs. Scott died as the result of premeditated murder at the hands of...
Person or persons unknown. Got that.
No, you haven't. We have reason to believe that Mrs. Scott's attorney, Cornelius Spry, is implicated.
Cornelius Spry, the former public defender?
Yep, the one and the same.
Have you a confession?
No, but we're bringing him in. Naturally, we would prefer that Mr. Spry came into headquarters of his own volition, and we hope he'll do just that. That's the end of the statement, Mary. This office will be getting back to you, hopefully in 24 hours, with more details.
You really think you'll have it cracked by then?
I think so.
Charlie, I was just called by the Examiner Journal and by the Times Trib and 2 other papers, all of whom wanted to know what I had to say about Chief of Detective's accusation that I was implicated in Jesse's death. How dare you give out such a statement? There's not a word of truth in it.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, Cornelius, but the facts indicate otherwise.
What facts? Innuendos, yes, well, maybe, but what facts?
At this point, Cornelius, I can only divulge them to the district attorney. If it all proves untrue, I can only say, I'm sorry.
What does your sorrow mean to me? Once a story is in print, the damage is done.
I'll be glad to apologize.
Retractions mean nothing. I'll see you in court.
Oh, yes, you will.
But before I go, I might inform you that everything you were told by Ken Bradley at the bank is without foundation. If you think it was to my advantage to have my best client dead because I stood to gain money or was in debt or made injudicious investment decisions on behalf of my client, you'll have a hard time proving it.
We'll see.
Charlie, you must know by now you can't build a case on hearsay or indirect collateral or secondary information. Only a prima facie case will stand up in court. Everything else is calumny. And believe me, I'll sue the police department up and down until you and it will be completely discredited, my friend. Goodbye. Officer Kowalski, you've been listening to this outside this door?
Just standing here, sir. You think he means it? I mean, about suing the police?
I can't read his mind. But I've accomplished exactly what I set out to do. Put that man on the defensive.
I don't see how. He's attacking? He's threatening a lawsuit?
Oh, sure, he can say that. After all, getting himself a lawyer doesn't cost him anything.
I think you'll agree that if Cornelius Spry had some hand in this crime, he is certainly an excellent actor. But whoever is guilty of the murder of the wealthy widow Jessie Scott, they will discover that our friend Charlie will pursue the guilty one until the law avenges the untimely death of his old sweetheart. I shall return shortly with Act 3.
They're running. They have something people will kill for. They're running for their lives. And they're running out of luck. Nick Nolte and Tuesday Weldon Who'll Stop the Rain. A movie as topical as Trouble. And they're in it together. Who'll Stop the Rain? Running on CBS television. The Wednesday night movie at 9, 8 Central and Mountain. Who'll Stop the Rain?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a musical medley of toe-tapping heart songs. Everybody dance.
Heart of my heart.
It's funny. After all the songs written about the heart, you'd think we'd learn to take better care of it. This message brought to you by the American Heart Association, who ask you to tell those you love to take better care of their hearts. The American Heart Association, we're fighting for your life.
The Northwest Orient Way to Washington, D.C. means low discount fares and daily service. Fly to National Airport for just $87 one way, any day of the week with no restrictions. And starting May 24th, Northwest Orient introduces Chicago's only daily service to Washington, D.C. Dulles Airport. With two new nonstops to Dulles every business day and special low fares. Just $69 one way, Saturday and Sunday, $87 one way, Monday through Friday, and only $99 one way first class any day of the week. That's to Dulles, starting May 24th. So when you fly to Washington, D.C., make your way the Northwest Orient way. For reservations, call your travel agent or Northwest Orient. Working hard, doing things right.
Northwest Orient Airlines. The world is going our way.
Low discount fares to Washington, D.C., starting May 24th, the only daily service going to Dulles Airport. That's the Northwest Orient way. This is WBBM Chicago, News Radio 78. It's 11:05.
Conan Doyle, master mystery storyteller, once said, "Detection is, or ought to be, an exact science, and should be treated in the same cold and unemotional manner. Tinge it with romanticism, and you produce the same effect as if you worked a love story into the fifth proposition of Euclid." Unquote. Whether Chief of Detective Allen's love for the deceased Jesse Scott will help or hinder him, we shall soon discover.
Chief, he's gone. I went to pick Andy up, and he's gone. Fishing? Nope, just gone. Nobody knows where he went.
So, Andy Moran didn't go fishing?
No, sir. The bartender told me he saw him 2 nights ago, but when I went around to where he lives, no answer. Then I went over and rang the service bell at Cornelius Spry's place, and a new man comes out and says he's the chauffeur. Where's Andy Moran, I ask? He don't know any Andy Moran.
That is good news. What? All good news.
How can you say that?
Kowalski, send out an all-points bulletin. Moran did time, so mugshots must be on file. Our former public defender got the wind up, went home and told Andy to run for the hills. So now we can assume they're both in on it.
If we knew what they were in on.
We'll find out. Put out the APB.
Charles? Charles, is that you? Well, what are you doing home? What are you doing to those drawers I fixed so carefully?
Hi, Matilda. I'm looking for a clean pair of socks.
Socks are in the top drawer where they've been for 20 years. Where are you sleeping these days? You never come home.
Oh, Matilda, don't bug me.
Oh, that's a good sign. When you're short with me, that means that pieces are falling into place.
I'm a long way from that.
What have you got?
No witnesses, a motive I'm not dead sure about.
You mean Cornelius not wanting to give Jessie an accounting of money he probably stole from her?
Oh, you've been talking to Ken Bradley at the bank again.
Oh, he's as anxious to get to the bottom of this as you are. Anything else?
Murdoch brought his boys over to Jessie's garage. They found gray hairs.
Hers?
Yeah, they're in the lab, but probably.
Charles,
While you're changing your socks, I want to tell you what I've been up to.
Honey, I'd love to hear it, but some other time.
Oh, where are you going? I thought you wanted clean socks.
I suddenly realized Kowalski may not know the drill. I told him to send out an APB for Andy Moran, and I want it in the works before that joker decides to leave the country.
You do mean Andy Moran, the ex-con who chauffeurs for Cornelius?
Yeah, that's who I mean, yes.
The same Andy Moran who married my sister?
That is the man, yes.
He had something to do with it?
Honey, so long. Don't wait up for me, huh?
It's Andy Moran I want to talk to you about. I saw June in the supermarket. Being married to a detective who needs all the help he can get but won't accept it from his wife makes me so mad sometimes I could scream. But I don't scream. I hold it in. He's got his Sherlock bones, and I've got my hunches. Take today. I'd just seen my sister, June Moran, in the supermarket. I couldn't get to talk to her before she had left, and I saw her get on a bus. It was a Galesville bus, which meant she was in Galesville visiting her in-laws, Andy's folks. I knew they were looking for him, so I thought I'd help. Long time no see, Andy.
Well, you know how it is. What did you want to see June about?
Oh, not a whole lot, really. I happened to see her in the supermarket, and it's been too long. She's the only sister I've got. How are you?
Marty, you don't fool me. You don't go chasing all the way out here to where my folks live just to cozy it with June.
All right, Andy. I'll be frank. You know Charles has always been more than fair, and when Cornelius Spry spoke up for you at the parole board and offered you a job, no one was more delighted than Charles was. He knew what a difference it would make to June.
What's up?
Well, I'd rather talk it over with June.
Look, Matty, if I were you, I'd go downstairs and take the bus back to town and don't worry about your sister. I'm taking good care of her. Real good.
Andy, you haven't gotten into trouble again, have you?
It's none of your business.
I'd hoped you'd gone straight. Does Cornelius know what you've been up to?
Everything is all right. I just remembered I have to take a pill.
Where are you going?
Just to the bathroom.
Andy, if something's wrong, why don't you just come clean? At least for June's sake.
Why don't you stop interfering, Matty? I wish you hadn't come here. I really do.
Andy, I can't talk to you if you keep dodging behind my back. What is it with you? Of course I had to come here. Charles is sending out an APB for you. Andy, don't!
Sorry to do this to you, sister-in-law, but I need the time to get away. You'll be awake in a couple of hours.
Police headquarters, Inspector Allen speaking.
Inspector, this is Kowalski. I located a car that made those tracks. It belongs to Lieutenant Norris of the 4th Precinct.
What? A police lieutenant?
Right. His car made those tire tracks. He told me he loaned the car to Andy Moran, who needed a car because Mr. Spry's was in his shop. Remember I told you?
Where's the car now?
Lieutenant's got it back.
Will you get Murdoch over there fast to give the car his microscopic eye? And tell him to call me when he's finished.
Yes, sir.
What? Matilda, well, what are you doing here? You look awful.
Can I sit down, Charles?
Yeah, here.
Thanks.
Lean on me. What have you done to yourself? Honey, your hair's all down, your clothes, What happened? Hey, you weren't mugged, were you?
No, I found Andy Moran, and he chloroformed me. I only just got away. I mean, it was hours ago. I knew you'd be here all night. Charles, I was only trying to help.
No. Take it easy, one thing at a time. Now, just tell me what happened.
And then then when I woke up, Andy was gone.
Matilda, I don't know what to tell you. Darling, you could have been...
Well, I was only trying to help.
Andy could have killed you.
Oh, he wouldn't do anything like that.
Who knows what he'd do? Anyone who keeps chloroform handy would do anything. I'll send for someone to drive you home. Just a sec. Yes?
Mr. and Mrs. Moran here to see you, sir.
Has he been frisked?
Oh, yeah. He's clean.
Okay, bring him upstairs. Leave her down at the desk. Well, your sister and her husband are here. I'm having him sent in. Now, you can go down and stay with June if you want, or I'll get you home.
They're here? I bet she talked him into it. I'll stay with June. Andy!
I'm sorry, Mattie. It was dumb of me. Here, your handbag. You left it.
Inside, Andy. Stand over there. Andy, you are in deep trouble. I see a count of murder 1. I see another of aggravated assault.
Charlie, I didn't mean to hurt Mattie. I just had to get out of there. And I didn't kill no one. I know it looks bad.
It doesn't look bad. It is bad. How come you're here to give yourself up?
June talked me into it.
Did you know there's an all points out for you?
No. But I knew you'd be after me. Cornelius told me.
Oh, did he? What did he say to you?
Well, he said, the heat's on, you better get out of town. He gave me $500 and told me to go as far as I can.
Then what did you do?
I went out to Galesville to my folks. Persuaded them to take a trip and then tried to figure out where we'd go. It wasn't easy because June was after me to tell her what was up. Then Matilda showed up. And the only way I could see to get away was to give her something to sleep. I met June and hustled her out to the bus depot. And she wouldn't get on a bus until I told her the whole story of how Cornelius Spry had killed Jesse Scott because he was in such deep water over money he'd taken. But I had nothing to do with the killing. Charlie, I swear it. I just borrowed a car and drove it to where he told me, and then I beat it.
But, Andy, didn't you know a murder had been committed?
I read about it the next day.
Well, why didn't you come to see me then?
He swore if I said one word, he'd make sure I'd be in the clink forever. My word against his. An ex-con against an ex-public defender. What chance would I have?
None at all. Unless you change your mind and get on the right side of the law.
Well, by doing what?
Do you know where Cornelius is?
I got a real good idea.
Well, then you get real good and persuasive and hustle him down to headquarters at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I don't care what you tell him, but you get him here. So when it comes to plea bargaining for you, Andy, I might just be in a position to help you.
Cornelius showed up at 8. Said he'd been away on business, but he admitted nothing. I wanted to help Charlie. I watched him work getting confessions, and I knew one way was to scare the living daylights out of a suspect. So I put on the bathrobe Jesse was murdered in and waited for the right moment to play the ghost of Jesse. Poor Charlie. He was really batting 0.
You didn't ask Andy to find you a car?
I did not.
You didn't instruct him to drive it to Jesse's garage the night she was murdered?
I did not. I was nowhere near there.
You didn't go to Jesse's house that evening and strangle her?
I did not.
And then bring her body down to the car in the garage?
No, I did not.
Then drive the body to the corner of 22nd and J, dump it, and make it appear she'd been hit by an unknown driver?
I was at the arena that night.
You say. You have not delivered one witness who saw you there.
Charlie, I know that Jesse is missing and has been for over 2 weeks. I admit I did go to the morgue and identify a woman I thought looked like Jessie, but I was wrong. It wasn't her. I suggest to you that Jessie is somewhere alive. Perhaps she's lost her memory.
And the ring I gave her on her finger?
Perhaps stolen. Perhaps found by someone. Now, would you turn this light out that's facing me? It's really blinding. I'm sitting here and I can't see you, really. I just know it's your voice across the table.
We keep the room dark.
Oh.
With the light on you so we can watch your face.
Who's that coming in? Who is it?
Hello, Cornelius.
Charlie. Charlie, she's here.
I trusted you, Cornelius. Why did you have to do it?
I don't feel well.
What's the matter with you, Cornelius? What is it?
Where's the door? I can't see the door.
You will never run away from me, Cornelius. I'll always be there.
Hey, get her out of here. Get her away from me. All right, I did it. I did it, yes, I did it. Charlie, please save me. Don't you see her? It's Jessie.
He's fainted. Matilda, I gotta hand it to you.
What did I tell you?
He's the one man I thought would never believe in ghosts. Kowalski, come on in and pick up the accused. I think he'll give us a confession when he comes to.
Charlie is taking my help a little more seriously these days. Of course, my coming in wearing one of Jessie's dresses and an identical gray wig could only have worked because Charles had pretty much worn him down. And you know what? They're making me an honorary member of the force. So you better watch your step. Officer Matilda may be assigned to your case. For the record, the following day, Cornelius Spry admitted the murder, was tried and sentenced, and is still serving a life term. He is given wide berth by fellow inmates in the pen because he apparently sees his victim at odd times, generally in the exercise yard. Then he runs to a guard and begs to be locked into his cell where no ghost of the past can reach him. I shall return shortly.
Hi, I'm Landon Saunders, and you know, it's the little things that get you down. You wake up in the morning feeling pretty good, but the kids are sick or noisy or messy or all three, or the traffic...
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt for this announcement. The National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning until 11:45 tonight for Winnebago County in northern Illinois. At 11 o'clock, radar indicated a possible tornado over the northern city limits of Rockford. Again, to repeat, the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning until 11:45 tonight for Winnebago County in northern Illinois. We resume our programming.
Your boss is grouchy, your coworker's lazy. Your bills mount up and you feel tension that you didn't have before, and you become morose, depressed. Maybe you have 3, 4, 5 days like this in a row, and you don't know what to do. Well, I've got a few suggestions that I think will help you cope with that depression. Here's one idea. Decide not to let your depression dehumanize you. You're a person, a very special and valuable person. Nothing or no one can change that. And you don't have to react in any other way. Your depression is never bigger than you are, and it's generally not fatal. If you'd like a copy of my depression plan, it's free. Just put the word depression on a postcard and send it to me at this address. Heartbeat, Hartford, Connecticut, 06142. This is Heartbeat.
If you've been putting money aside, you're right to be concerned about inflation eroding its buying power. That's why you ought to know about Dreyfus Liquid Assets and how it can help you earn today's high money market yields without tying up your cash for months or years. Start with as little as $2,500. Make added investments as low as $100. With Dreyfus Liquid Assets, your money is yours whenever you need it. Phone for it, have it sent to your bank, or write a redemption check for cash or to pay your larger bills. You keep right on earning that high yield, compounded daily until your check clears. No penalties on interest, no sales charges, no charge for the checks. It's so simple, sensible, convenient. But find out for yourself. Call toll-free 800-228-5000 for free information and a prospectus including management fee, charges, and expenses. Read the prospectus carefully before investing or sending money. Discover how Dreyfus Liquid Assets can help you get the lion's share of today's high money market rates. 800-228-5000. Toll-free 800-228-5000.
Doc, the world's first great detective, has said, those who believe they can commit a crime so perfect it will not be discovered must first of all reckon with the accuser, judge, and jury within themselves, their conscience. For sooner or later, conscience will arrest the criminal. There are very few perfect crimes because man himself is imperfect. Our cast included Russell Horton, Carol Teitel, and Robert Dryden. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by White Westinghouse Appliance Company. This is Tammy Grimes, inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant